so soft.
Oh, we are live. Hi guys.
Love it.
You heard that first here. Welcome to another weekly hangout. Joined, of course, with our usual cast of characters. Starting on my left is Mr. Andrew Cam from Mobile Burn. How's it going, Andrew?
Softest.
Good morning. Hey, man, I got some new soap. I didn't even realize it was going to make my skin this soft. It's just so nice.
Yeah. You know, the guy's making sure that his Nivea just makes sure it just moisturizing that skin.
That's hot.
And of course, Mr. Juan Bagnell from Some Gadget Guy. How's it going, Juan?
Good morning, everybody. Let's talk some tech.
Cool. All right, so a lot of it was a slow week, but it kind of ramped up towards the end of the week. And first off, talking about Apple buying Beats. Now, we went on a little long explanation and history and talk about Apple yesterday, myself and Juan. So we'll start off with you, Andrew. What are your thoughts on why Apple is buying Beats? Do you think it's a sensible idea? And, you know, whatever you want to throw in there, just the whole idea of what Apple's trying to do in the first place also with this.
Yeah, I think this is a case of Apple just taking a shortcut, because we've seen that, like, while everyone was drumming the bass saying, oh, you guys need to be worried about Pandora, you need to be worried about Pandora, Apple just said no, because we're still making billions of dollars and people want to own their music, not rent it. They want to have full control and be able to listen to any song at any time. What we've seen with the rise of Spotify, Google Play All Access, RDO, Slacker, that on-demand streaming is growing in popularity. And it's not just on your mobile devices, it's on the web as well. So they did iTunes Radio to be their Pandora competitor, but that's limited to iOS, and it's not as good. So now when they want a full-range competitor to really take on Spotify to just provide some insurance for the future, they said, well, instead of just building it, we can spend $3 billion of the $150 billion we have sitting around doing nothing, and we can just buy Beats and just take a shortcut. And aside from that, they're going to get a piece of the headphone money, where Beats makes a ridiculous amount of money, even though this is technically not better headphones, whatever. And this is just me. Personally, I think it makes sense for them, because the price might be a little higher than I would have expected them to go. But, you know, Beats was valued at $1 billion last year. So this is their way of maybe just getting the money now, getting Beats music up, ready to go, and just being able to just quickly rebrand that if they choose to, or just leave it as Beats and they just collect the money. So I think this makes sense for them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we touched on some of those things yesterday, you know, and the purchasing price for me is not an issue. $3.2 billion for a company that's valued at $1 billion makes sense, because if you do, you know, increased valuation of a year, plus you're paying for it, you're gonna do a premium price, right? Which is fine. I just don't see necessarily the fit onto how this joins. I know Sam's going to join us soon. He says he's going to join us, and he's the one that really sees this whole synergy of Apple buying all these different companies.
Let me throw out two ideas, because I'd love to get your guys' take on them. The idea of Apple's current product strategy and current lineup is starting to skew a little bit older, and I think they're having a slightly harder time breaking out into some of the youth demographics that they're trying to work up a little excitement. Beats comes with a lot of cred for some of those younger, especially when we're talking about music and people really into club tracks and hip hop and stuff like that. So that helps buy them in a little bit there. And then also, kind of what you were talking about, Andrew, doesn't this provide them a Trojan horse to monetize audio, to monetize music on other platforms other than iOS?
Yeah, because realistically, Apple's never going to hire people to work on Android products. They're just not going to do it. But if they acquire a company that already has some experience in Android, and, you know, the goal is to be the music solution everywhere, you know, they put iTunes on PC because they wanted to sell music even if you were on PC. So I think this is going to be their way to say, all right, we want to sell music on Android, which is pretty much the PC equivalent in mobile. So I think it makes sense for them to do that.
No, I mean, see, I slightly disagree. I mean, putting iTunes on PC is because they had to.
Yeah, they had, they have to. They have to do the same thing in mobile.
They have to do the same thing in mobile, but buying somebody who is on the totem pole, I kid you not, Beats Music probably is lower in terms of streaming, or maybe slightly higher than, say, Nokia Music. I would say no, but slightly higher. Yeah. But it's not as big. So it's not like they're buying. it's not like they say they bought like a Pandora or Slacker radio where I can go, oh, okay, you bought, even if you bought Slacker, I can go, yeah, all right, that makes sense, right? That's somebody that really has a core backbone into that business for streaming audio than say it Beats Music, because Beats Music is new, and as of 2 months ago said they've only done 1 million subscribers and they're stuttering. So to me, that's not something that pulls in faith to say, hey, people are going to use it. Granted, it's available on Windows Phone and Android. You can attack those markets, but if I'm going to do that, I'm basically going to get a Slacker at the very least.
Yeah, but how much would they have to spend to get Slacker? Because if they're, I know they definitely couldn't afford Spotify at their current valuation.
No, Apple can't afford Spotify.
They could afford, okay.
No, they could afford
it. But they wouldn't want to. What they would have to pay would be exceeding their actual value, and it would. Well,
and
combined to do it.
And combined with the fact that with Spotify, you get an amazing music streaming service. With Beats, you get a music streaming service that you can Trojan horse, and you have to build up that audience base, but then you also get their hardware lineup too.
Yeah, true. I agree with the hardware lineup. So Sam, you're here, and we had this discussion yesterday with Juan, but talking about Apple buying Beats, and how that plays. What do you think about the deal? How does it play to Apple's overall strategy? Because I know you've been talking about this overall strategy about how they might be doing different things, especially with all the little acquisitions left and right. I know you're sitting on that chair like you're some king. So tell us your thoughts on an Apple buying Beats.
I'm sitting like Sam. Look at me.
Sit down, my children. I shall regale you with my
I think we should all sit like Sam.
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to sit down like Thanos. All right, so basically this is what I think. I think anybody who thinks that this is being done just to combat Spotify is missing the point. I think there was a New York Times article, I think, I think it was New York Times, when their technology correspondent goes, oh man, Apple is really combating Spotify, who's been stealing so much, like who has so much subscription, and they keep on growing and growing. I'm like, great, right? Apple is going to combat Spotify. That's great, but that's what iTunes Radio was for, the subscription service, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what they're getting with Beats is not just a subscription service that's less than, that's about a year and a half old, and as you just said, just barely hit 1 million.
It's only 4 months old, actually.
Oh, 4 months old, yeah. So and it's barely hit 1 million. Now, if you think about what else comes with Beats, the technology for I guess the M7, when you look at Beats and Boom Sound in the M7, was actually based off of Beats. They worked HTC and Beats worked hand in hand. So Beats has technology that basically improves audio significantly, at least on a phone. And then you see the acquisitions when you're buying the guys who originally made the original Kinect sensors. You're buying companies that do really low-grade or low-powered Wi-Fi connectivity. You're looking at them and you're saying, these guys are building something you're going to use in the home. You now look at the fact that you have a sensor company, and then you have a company like Nike who used to make a wristband for fitness that no longer does. But I'm like, these guys are making something that fits into the lifestyle of for daily use. It's just my speculation, but I think Beats is just the basis of what Apple is willing to do for the next few years, because they're willing to spend $3.2 billion on the company. This company has to mean significantly more than 1 million subscribers, 4-month-old streaming service. It means significantly more. Tim Cook is really smart, and he's not going to spend $3.2 billion on a 4-month-old company, or should I say for a 4-month-old subscription
service. Okay, all right. I mean that's a plausible idea, especially that Apple hasn't done anything in big waves of a new product or something that catches our attention. And since they've been buying all these little pieces left and right, that could play into it. How about you, Warren? What do you think of the purchase of Beats by Apple, or at least the proposed purchase, because it's still not official? Although we know Dr. Dre has been popping bottles and doing this.
He's been doing that long before any type of Beats deal came around.
No. See, there's popping bottles, and then there's billionaire popping bottles, which means you buy a yacht and then you just throw everybody on top and be
popping bottles of billionaire status is when you buy the company that makes the champagne you like.
Exactly.
Yup.
So Warren, what do you think?
It's a deal. I don't know. It's to me, it's them securing what already was kind of going. Beats to me was already sort of something that it was more. The headphones were already more designed to work with Apple products more so than they were designed to work with anything else, anyways. They were. I could see it being used, and like Sam said, there's got to be some other purpose to this other than a 4-month-old subscription service that most of us have already forgotten the name of, and the fact that I think it's a lot of it has to do with branding. A lot of it has to do with whatever technology they may have. They might want to stick inside of a phone or another device or maybe home TV or some type of system or something. It's an interesting deal that I think we're going to have to wait to see what gets produced out of it. Right now, it's just Beats with maybe an Apple logo on it, I suppose, or maybe some special Beats audio application for iPhones to make your iTunes music sound less crappy. So then finally these iTunes, these Apple iPhone people that buy iPhones will actually get some decent headphones for a change.
Oh, earbuds.
Earbuds, but I'm not even counting on that one that much either.
Actually,
but I really do think it's more than just them. It's more than just headphones. It's got to be something else that they're planning to use that for and the Beats audio branding for than just headphones, because headphones is a saturated market, so it's time to kind of jump into whatever the next thing's going to be.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Sam.
What does Beats actually do pretty well that we all know they do very, very well, which
Marketing.
is marketing. Exactly. And marketing to what demographic?
Young people. The coveted 18 to 34 demographic.
Yeah.
Boom! 3.2 million right there.
Many of us are still in that demographic.
Oh no, baby, I gotta stay there for a couple more years.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily buy that. I understand. Okay, so there's been a lot of speculation. Half of the speculation was that half part of this deal is trying to get can you help me again with his name again?
Jimmy Iovine?
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at it. My mind says McLovin. I don't know why.
Why does it say McLovin? Where do you get McLovin? Where do you get McLovin?
No. I'm looking. I see Lovin and I'm going McLovin. My head just is like I'm just gonna add McLovin to it. But anyway, Jimmy Iovine. The word is that Apple really wants him on board because of the stuff he's done in the music industry. I mean, he's done a lot for Universal, especially in getting new artists contracts. And if Apple is going to expand its empire from music to maybe TVs and stuff, then they need somebody like that on there. And also acquiring a company like Beats with it too brings also a lot of things. But this kind of goes to something that Juan and I discussed yesterday. We're talking about especially moving to this entertainment segment of technology now, where everyone is pushing platforms and it's entertainment. Apple had the greatest opportunity for this with iTunes, and literally to me has failed, other than pushing other people's content. If you look at it, come this summer, Microsoft is opening up Xbox Studios with all these content that is produced by them. Sony has the same thing. You have Netflix, but iTunes, which started it all for us, is still technically stuck on music.
Well, but the thing is, they've always been music. Even they serve movies and other things like that, but that's never been their
But I know, but I'm saying that look at this. This is a company that has how much again, Andrew? $150 billion, right?
Yeah.
You can start making your shows if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You can. You have enough money to get somebody. Remember, Netflix.
That's cash.
That's cash, not 150 in value.
Let me put it this way: less than 0.1% of what they have could make 4 or 5 major blockbuster
movies.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's not. We're making it sound like go just make movies. That's not simple for a company that has no idea about that. That's not.
I'm not disagreeing, but I'm saying that
Microsoft and them are at least.
But they're being reactionary.
They've dabbled in that a little bit in some ways. Like Apple hasn't dabbled in that sort of thing, other than being a music distributor. In the end of the day, they're just a music store.
Distributor. I know, but I'm saying that what it is that if you really want to push, because they've had this, and we know that they've always wanted. For instance, Apple has always wanted to go to the TV room. They started with Apple TV. That push hasn't been big. And if you really want people to stay with Apple TV, Netflix has shown if you make your own shows that are good, people will stay.
But you have to think about Netflix as a service versus Apple. Apple is still a hardware company. They're not. Their mindset isn't services and entertainment like that. In the end of the day, they're a hardware company.
And they need to change to services, aka Microsoft is making services is a very big road.
Yeah, but you got to understand they are, analysts won't say this, but they are very far behind in that category compared to where
I agree.
Google and Microsoft are in this category.
I don't know about that. iTunes remains the biggest distribution port for digital media, so
that's one.
Yeah,
that's one.
But iTunes is all encompassing.
But as much as you might say Apple is,
but I see a lot of those iTunes users are doing Spotify and Pandora and
a lot of Netflix users
everything
are
else.
using Amazon. A lot of Google Play users are using Pandora. The problem is nobody has created the one-stop shop. There's no service that solves all of your needs.
They never will be.
They never will.
And that's
we're called human beings for a reason. We have, we all have different varying points here. Just like Juan is just keeping quiet. That's very important.
I'm just watching the bodies fall. This is great, guys.
But it doesn't just stop there. When I'm saying services, it also has a lot to do with a lot of other cloud platforms and things of that nature that Microsoft and Google are dabbling into. That Apple has zero answer for that. None. Zero. They're just sitting behind idly. They're still, in the end of the day, a hardware company that has a couple of software services out there. They have to get beyond that. They have to get beyond that now.
And I agree with Warren, because I think part of the problem of the ethic behind creating the iPhone was, we're going to sell this hardware and then we're going to let other people develop services for it. And the services will, the hardware is going to get out of your way so that you can enjoy all of these services. And they really prided themselves on being the solution for that glowing rectangle. And now they're starting to realize that they actually need to start providing some of these services too.
And it's true, and it brings up a point you stated yesterday, Andrew. Like, Apple, you should just go buy Dropbox, right, and improve iCloud.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, they should.
But Dropbox has its issues.
It's not about what we want them to do; it's about what they should do.
They tried to buy Dropbox a few years ago when Dropbox was still like early on, but the CEO wisely said no, and they're worth a lot more now. So.
No, but the thing is, Apple has already some of their acquisitions. They've bought like an algorithm that basically, or should I say, a compression algorithm company as well. But
at the
end of the day, I mean, like the consumer-facing side, iCloud is terrible.
Yeah,
you guys know, it's just awful. And every time I use my iPhone, the first thing I do is just say no to iCloud, and I back up everything through other solutions. Yeah. I go to Dropbox, or I go to Google Drive, or Google Contacts, something else, because Apple's solution is just so bad. And I gave it 2 chances, and it was bad both times, and I don't even bother with it anymore. So they need to buy a company that actually can create a better product for that type of stuff.
If it's Box, if it's Dropbox, they've got to do something.
Oh, God, don't let it be Box.
But they've got to do something. I've started using OneDrive because I've got a Surface 2, and it's surprisingly pretty good. Like Microsoft's foray into cloud storage, I was expecting it to be a little bit more like iCloud. It's
actually pretty damn good.
But what Microsoft's using for OneDrive is extremely impressive, and I think that obviously woke up Google, because all of a sudden we see Drive and Docs and everything coming out of the woodwork.
Yep.
I said once Office becomes a service and starts jumping on other platforms, this is the start. This is the snowball that Microsoft's trying to build, because they're going to get people into their ecosystem based upon all the little services that they offer. Similar to what Google did. They did one thing, then get you into another thing, and get you into another thing. It started off with Gmail, then it jumped into here, into here.
Yeah. That raises a good point, because what is the ecosystem for the iPhone, other than iTunes, which now you can circumvent with streaming music and Netflix and Amazon and all these other things? You can get an iPhone or an iPad and not touch any Apple service, like zilch.
Like
maybe Safari.
I don't even use. Well, I use Safari because Chrome is so slow on an iOS. But whenever I go on my iPhone, I don't use any Apple service other than the App Store.
Exactly.
To get other services that you don't need
to get the other. Which is interesting, because you look at Android or Windows Phone, you have to use those services on there, and not because you have to, but also they're good enough where you go, you know, I
Well,
don't
they do a very good job of introducing those services to you from the beginning, and giving you.
And not sucking. That's the
Yeah.
key part
You
of it.
gotta look at somebody that's grabbing maybe an Android phone right now for the first time, and then they see that they can get Gmail. They got a good email client. Then you have the Docs, which gives them the drive, and they got their storage and be able to create documents. And then, oh, I want to listen to music. Oh, I have Google Music on there that not only plays both your local music as a regular player, but then gives you access to an entire library of streaming content. And then it just kind of just builds from there. And the same thing on Microsoft as well too. They just kind of, even though Microsoft's got to figure out how not to call everything Xbox in terms of fucking entertainment, which is the worst name ever. Xbox Music is not a good name for people to go out there and jump and want to use music for.
They should have just left it at what was the name of their Zune? They should have just left it at Zune. The Zune software and the Zune name.
I agree. So, but it's Xbox Music now. Leave it done. Just push it properly. That's
no,
it.
I don't.
Another name change.
Another
name change is just a waste of time.
No, the name needs to change. It needs to match who they are. If you sit there and call it, they can name everything one for all I care. But if you call it Windows Music, even if that at least identifies what it is.
No.
When you say Xbox Music, that automatically goes to people that I have to have an Xbox to use this.
That's kind of true.
Or that it's for gamers or for kids, or that adults don't use this service. That's for those kids that all claim they slept with my mother when I play Call of Duty.
that is very true until we see how they do their push with Xbox Entertainment this summer, because that really is the reason why they stuck it is because of that, right?
I mean, I understand that, but I completely agree with Warren that I think some sort of global Microsoft branding should probably come down the pipe in the next.
They called it One Music, the OneDrive, and all the other stuff. If everything that they named in their services started with a 1, at least you know it belongs to Microsoft.
Or it could be HTC or 1+1.
Let's be kind of realistic.
No one's going to confuse it with
Xbox. The Xbox is fast becoming, or should I say, is fast becoming less and less of a gaming system and more of a home entertainment system.
Yeah, it's the dream of Microsoft putting a computer in your living room.
Yeah, exactly.
So to use the Xbox name right now might just be basically building that ground knowledge or that grassroots kind of awareness that Microsoft has this Xbox that is for your home, and say Xbox Music, yes, associate the box with music, associate the box with videos. So they might be building that grassroots movement right now. But when we go back to what we were originally talking about with Apple and the software services and whatnot, I think what we need to look at the fact that iTunes basically came out and it basically revolutionized the way we all absorb music, we all consume music.
Not for me.
When the iPod came out. Majority of people. When the iPod came out, it was, okay, you have an iPod, but how do you get the music on the iPod? iTunes came out and revolutionized music, and that's the truth. We can all agree on that.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, they did a good job. They did a good job of marketing and putting it in one package, even though these services are already available through Windows Media.
Consumption of music, it still did that.
Oh, it still did that, yeah.
So basically, what they've done, what happened since then, is they've entered into all these agreements that basically hold them back from doing new and more innovative things with iTunes. The agreements they have with basically stuff like the RIAA or all these record companies, they can't really adapt. They can't revolutionize or create some kind of new way of people interacting with your music. So it's a good idea to buy Beats, just for the fact that you might be opening up a new way to do innovative things with music and content. So I think that's probably part of what iTunes is looking at. When I say Beats is basically going to be the basis for what Apple is doing going forward, I think Beats is kind of a reimagining of what has made Apple great in the past. And they're coming back to that basis of, let's start with music again and see where we can go from there. Can we put this on TV? Can we basically get more people to subscribe to this if we basically start decommissioning iTunes Radio? What can we do with this music service that brings us back, or that brings consumer awareness back to Apple? And I think they're already doing it. We've been talking about this for the last how many days, and the deal's not even done.
Oh, no, the deal's done, I think. It's a private company, so you don't have to stay till next week.
Okay.
Well, and I think I think, Sam, that's an excellent point, in that regardless of what how grand their vision might be, it's a different company, which means that they were able to negotiate different deals with the RIAA. before putting stuff out there.
Lou Rod says, I read.
How do you say it? How do you say? Say the name.
I
say
just
the
forgot
name.
it again. Dre and the other dude. I just forgot it. I'm looking at it. I can't even pronounce it anymore. We'll have senior positions at Apple if the deal gets done. Most likely, yeah.
I don't know that Dre's really on board. I mean, the big talk has been Jimmy, not
Jimmy, yes, but Dre might want to. If I were him, I would. You know.
I don't think they want Dre. Why do they want him?
Well, because he's Dr. Dre.
Because he's the marketing aspect. Remember,
Dr. Dre.
The reason why we all got interested about this is because his name was on that. We were like, oh, seriously?
Yeah. When Beats launched, it wasn't Beats Electronics. It was Beats by Dre. That was the name that we got, and they put that on. I remember HP had that branding on some laptops as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So even if he's just paid spokesperson, and it's kind of like when an actor gets executive producer credit, even though they're not really an executive producer, but they have the clout to get that demand, so they make more money.
Do you guys remember the HP commercial where Hove was basically, on this UI where he's talking about like making money and all these other stuff?
Oh, they were doing that for like Jerry Dre Seinfeld and all that.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking, hey, Drake can do that and really be like, I'm making $1 billion, in an afternoon.
All right. So anyway, I guess we can round up Apple discussion on buying Beats there. We still don't know what they're trying to do with the company. We'll find out at some point in the future when it ever happens. Moving on. Motorola has its press event next Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Tuesday. And word is it's going to be the Moto E, which from leaks and reports, it looks like the device will actually be cheaper than the Moto G at around $100. But it looks similar to the Moto G.
You know how you can tell? It's because E is sooner in the alphabet. So by the time we get to Moto A, they'll pay you to take
Moto A. Yeah.
That's the one we really want. That's the phone where you get it for a firm handshake and a half a ham sandwich.
and then of course there was some leaks on the Moto X+1, which would be the follow-up to the Moto X. So what do you think about Motorola's event, and what do you think they're going to show, the devices, all that fun stuff? We'll start off with you, Andrew.
Yeah, I think it's going to be just like you said, regular entry-level phone. The Moto G was a mid-range device. This is going to be entry-level. It's all about getting people in the furthest away from technology hubs to be wrapped into Google's system. So they want people in like anywhere that barely has an internet connection. They want you to buy this device.
Boom, boom, chicka boom, somewhere. That's what they want.
Yeah, this is going to be like ultra cheap, basically going after the same market that the Nokia X went after.
Okay. Juan?
Yeah, I completely agree, and you guys have heard me kind of soapbox about this in the past too. Like with the premier smartphone market maturing very, very quickly, when Samsung isn't bragging about how many Galaxy S5s they've sold. We're starting to see.
But they bragged about ship though.
No, they bragged about chip, but we're gonna say we kind of know what that means.
10 million, 25 days faster than the S4. So
right, and we also know why companies talk about shipped phones versus sold phones. And the thing is, I'm not saying that the Galaxy S5 probably won't be the top-selling phone of this year. What I'm saying is we've built up unrealistic expectations on how units at that tier are going to get moved. When a company like Apple can be disgustingly profitable, but they didn't sell enough phones to meet some random analyst's predictions, then the market has an issue and the market has a problem. And so that's why I think the most exciting growth is going to be getting entry-level devices and services into people's hands. And that's an area where only really Motorola is making big headlines right now. The Moto G got them some significant traction in Europe against the low-cost Nokia devices, so it only makes sense to go one tier lower than the Moto G and really start fighting the Lumia 630 on its own turf.
All right, cool. Warren.
I guess it's cool. Another entry-level device. Moto E, emerging markets. That's probably what it's.
As opposed to the iPhone 5 cheap.
We're all emerging. It's not the Moto Thunder E by any stretch of the means.
There's no power in that. There's no power in that. That's why.
No, that is definitely the Moto E. Moto Thunder E.
I was gonna give you another finger, but I just like,
But I think this is all about this device is all about like everyone's kind of said, it's all about getting users that are not smartphone users yet and getting them into the foray, especially in emerging markets where the price of phones are just so much more higher because they pay them at cost versus subsidized costs that you get here in the United States and other mature markets. So the Moto E will be interesting. I'm not sure spec wise what it'll be. It'll probably be very similar to the Moto G. Maybe no HD screen. I think they'll take some things out, but they'll keep some things in it. Most likely we're looking at something that's probably going to be like a QHD type of device and probably running a Snapdragon 400. I think that's the lowest of the low right now.
Well,
right?
and with the other things we're going to have to talk about with like the LG G3, we're going to actually have to start delineating between quarter HD and quad HD.
No, it's easy. It's easy. You just use the lowercase for quarter HD.
No, but when you say it out loud, it's still QHD.
Yeah.
Where did everyone get like I was reading this? I'm like QHD. What do you mean? Why are we calling this QHD? Just call it UHD. It already has a damn name.
No, UHD is 4K. This isn't 4K. This is
2K.
Which is funny because 4K
2K,
often
right?
actually isn't 4K. It's usually 300.
yeah.
So this is 2K, right? 2K screens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's
it's still Ultra HD. It's above regular HD, so it's Ultra. You gotta find.
No, but Ultra we reserve for 4K and up.
Look, we're just confusing ourselves to death.
But I think one of the other things that they're looking at taking out of the Moto E is the front-facing camera, which kind of makes sense considering the data environment that most of those consumers are going to be in.
Yeah, they're not going to be taking too many selfies.
This will probably also just have like slow probably not slow, but like average 3G networks. Probably not anything. I'll be surprised if it has even HSPA plus. Probably have maybe even less than that. Because those markets don't even have. A lot of them still run on GR. Some of them run on GR.
Yeah, I mean, true. We'll see. I mean, it all depends. If it's running the Snapdragon 400, then it will have it. It will actually have it.
It's built into the chipset.
Yeah. But that's what the phone looks like from latest render on Engadget. Looks like a Moto G and X altogether. Any thoughts of us seeing X+1?
Nope.
Nah, I don't think. I think that's going to be just a throwaway announcement later this year.
That's going to be something they're going to announce. It's going to be a little bit of an upgrade, and we'll all get a press release about it.
It's going to be a blog post. They give it out a press release.
Yeah, I kind of see them just sort of just flipping a switch on Moto Maker one day, and then all of a sudden the specs on the Moto X are just better.
You got to remember, they're still in the process of becoming a Lenovo company, and I think the next big event they're going to want to put out is going to be something related to with Lenovo branding on it.
Yeah, but that's going to take so long because by the time the Lenovo deal closes and gains all the government approval,
next year.
It's going to be next year.
Yeah, but I figured that's what it's going to be. I'm not expecting anything big.
I don't think they're going to do anything else big this year.
Yeah. I think Moto X+1 is coming soon because the AT&T page hits. Verizon one was already there, so I think it's sooner rather than later. I don't think it's
but it's not going to be anything major.
No. It's going to be a nice little refresh.
They might bump it to a 1080p screen. The camera will probably go from 5. What is it? Is it 5 right now to 8?
No, the rear camera is on the Moto X.
Yeah, what's the rear camera?
I thought it was an 8.
10.
It's 10.
Oh, is it 10?
It's 10. It's 10. It's just so terrible that you think it's 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Then that'll probably get moved.
Yeah. I remember that where they were like, "Yeah, this camera is really good compared to your 1020." I'm like, okay.
I mean, that's even just the wrong comparison right there. Like Motorola is sort of notorious. They have a reputation for terrible cameras.
No. This was at the event,
Mm.
literally.
I know. I'm just saying, like, why shoot for the moon there, guys? Why not just say, like, oh, hey, this camera can finally compete against the Galaxy S2.
I could even see it. Maybe we won't. The X+1 may come an announcement maybe somewhat after the newer version of Android may be announced, and then probably this will coincide with whatever Android Wear watch that they're announcing, which is probably going to get more of the press. than the actual phone itself. So
you mean the Moto 360?
Yeah, I think they'll push these together, but really the watch is going to be the more
driving factor. Yeah.
Driving factor. Like you get this +1, you know, that's what the +1 could be. Literally, it's just that it's got tight integration with the watch.
If they tie the watch to the Moto X device, that would be a dumb move.
No, I mean you'll be able to use it with other devices.
I don't think he means tying it directly. I think it's just kind of
like better integration.
Yeah, better integration. Using that watch.
Or even there's just like an extra couple apps on the Moto X that take advantage of some feature.
You know what are those things they have on Motorola in their UI? The active things that they have in the UI. You know how they have that whole
the active screen.
But the automated features. You know how they have whole automation sort of system in there too?
Not Moto Assist or something like that. It's like it tells if you're driving this.
Yeah, I think it is Moto Assist. It's something that they had it before the whole Google thing, and they kind of brought it over too. Yeah. But it was the commands that you could make. It's like it was a bunch of if-then statements in the end of the day. It was just that software.
Oh, Moto Action. That's what it was.
Yeah, something similar to that. I could see them having some integration with Android where that is their sort of bonus. But I think like this year with Motorola, we're not going to see a lot of grandiose things. These are things that are already on their plate. They're already kind of planned. Yeah. And Lenovo's just working with Google in some ways to just get these things out of there. And then by the time in 2015 or so, I think this is when we start seeing the Lenovo version of Motorola and what we're going to start seeing pushed out. And that's going to, they will start seeing them bring out high-end hitters and stuff like that, because by then the newer processors will be out, which if you look at what those are, those things are pretty ridiculous in what they're going to be doing. And it's going to really, I think, change what a lot of the higher-end smartphones are going to be doing in the future. So, like I said, it's going to take a while for that deal, but I think it's kind of a good thing for them to kind of just...
Well, because you got to keep some momentum going.
Yeah.
I mean, Moto has actually been building a little bit of a consumer base, so you can't just leave a vacuum out there. But...
I really want them to do another push for Moto Maker, especially now that they've fine-tuned a bunch of kinks there, where it literally now takes a week for you to get your phone. I really wish they kept on doing that push, because the fact that you can create your own device and do whatever you want to do, and you get it in 7 days, it's something where most people go that I can do. I can personalize it. They did the football themed phones where you can get phones that match your college you went to, that kind of thing. So I want to see them do more of that push, so that at least they show that they have a lot of differentiation altogether.
Agreed.
Okay.
I don't think we heard from Sam or Andrew about this yet either, even though they chimed in a little bit. What are you guys' thoughts on the whole Moto E and Moto X, since you kind of put these two topics together?
I think everybody already agrees. I think everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
I think everybody's on the same page. The Moto E is going to be go ahead.
No. You're like, everyone's on the same page. Let's just
moving on.
Same thing, more and more. Yeah, let's just move on.
Okay. Next up is Microsoft's having a small event. How did they tag it? Something about
a small gathering.
Small gathering. It's
an intimate gathering of friends for tea.
It's basically just an event for the Surface Mini. But the interesting thing about this event is that rumors have come out that somebody will be missing from this event, and that guy is NVIDIA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they are going with Qualcomm chipsets, and it looks like they're going to be, let's all join in.
Yep.
About damn time.
So it looks like they're going with Qualcomm chipset and an Intel chipset also. So I mean,
I'm shocked that the LTE version of the Surface 2 that they stuck with NVIDIA for that, after the sort of the proven track record of Qualcomm in that space.
I mean, probably they just wanted to help them out.
Only NVIDIA good Microsoft combo ever was when they introduced Tegra 1 with the Zune. After that, it has been nothing but failure after failure after failure. Every time I know I'm dissing NVIDIA. I like your graphics cards, NVIDIA, but man, the Tegra chipset. Every time I see that name Tegra, I go, nope.
There's a fat lot of
like this, we're out the window.
Stop. Go back to the graphics card. Do something else.
And
Make
I
some
thought-
software that works with everyone else. Do something else. No, Tegra's just that name, man.
And I really thought we were going to see a little, sort of like a little improvement, a little momentum with the Tegra 3. Like when Google started picking it up. Wasn't the Tegra 3 in the Nexus 7?
Yeah.
Something like that? Anyway,
Yeah, it is.
but
I decided
that,
to
like,
buy that product.
But man, like, wow, did Qualcomm just sort of eat them for breakfast?
Yeah, NVIDIA's problem was they took too long to get an LTE compatible chip.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then once that happened, like Qualcomm had the modem integrated, all the carriers preferred it, and once that happened, it was pretty much they were done.
It was
But
game over.
the biggest
This is how
problem, the biggest
chips like this.
they make it rain literally. But the problem with I know we're getting to the NVIDIA bash rush. We should get more talking about the Surface. But the problem with NVIDIA is because their whole entire focus was gaming. And guess what? People do more than gaming on their phones and on their products. I mean, great, good gaming graphics that look no better than already what the Adrenos do. Like
I wouldn't go that far. When Tegra 2, when Android tablets first came out, when you compared a Tegra game to what was on another game, you could definitely tell the difference between the two.
We're talking about Tegra too. I'm talking about really at least in the last couple of years.
I think what NVIDIA did was a slight mistake. They should have focused on gaming, but focused on gaming as a battery life issue. Because if you can really game that well and extend the battery life, then you've got a chipset that on a regular phone doesn't matter. That thing will last forever, right? You know.
Yeah, it would be really interesting though to see if that Surface Mini, right, has like a desktop mode in it though. Wouldn't it be interesting?
No, it will have a desktop mode. It will.
Yeah,
Now the thing is, you know, with the Surface, Microsoft used the Surface to set that standard for Windows 8, especially for companies like Lenovo. And so, no, I mean Lenovo.
Why do we all just say, oh yeah, it would have a desktop mode? Why is that a given?
Because
I thought this was just RT.
No, because there's rumors there's also going to be an Intel chipset, so which means desktop.
Well, I mean, I could see where maybe there's like, I hope they don't do this. I hope it's just one product. But if they do like a Surface Mini and then a Surface Mini Pro, so you know, like just like they did with the Surface RT and the Surface Pro, and that maybe the Surface Mini Pro has sort of like an Atom-style chipset.
Chipset, yeah. No, I think because that market with the Atom-style processors for, you know, like the Dell Venue Pro sold well. That product sold very. I mean,
and like what Lenovo's doing with the Mix and other stuff like that. Yeah.
So they have to address that market there to tell other people like Sony. Sorry, they don't make laptop computers anymore. That they need to.
Focus camera on Andrew.
Two fingers up. Two fingers up to you.
Fingers.
2 fingers.
Good.
So that they know how to make a quality, you know, Windows tablet on that 7-inch form factor in there. But do you think we'll see anything else in terms of, let's say, digitize a pen or any other features on there?
Well, I mean, that if we see a split product line, and I'm sort of torn on the issue. Like, I think it would be cool to have a Pro 7-inch tablet, solid build construction, maybe a kickstand, you know, that magnesium frame, all of that stuff would be cool. But I also think Microsoft doesn't do a good job of communicating what their different feature sets are. So we run into the same problem between the Surface and the Surface Pro if we have a Surface Mini and a Surface Mini Pro.
Which I think we will, because I
think it's a distinct possibility, but damn, their PR has to get out ahead of what these different products do and why you should buy a Surface Mini. You know, like right now it's like, well, you could get the Surface Mini, but it's hamstrung. You know, that's what the market is going to talk about. You can't do all of this stuff on it.
Okay.
And Microsoft's PR really has to start talking about features and benefits and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's my first question, because when I first hear about this, my immediate question is, why would I want this in the first place? Because the Surface isn't that big from what I remember the last time I saw it. I know it's going to be a little bit more portable, but I mean, in this small form factor, if you're using this, why would I get this instead of an iPad?
I'll give you an example. You, Andrew, actually, try and get your hands on a Lenovo ThinkPad 8. That is the quintessential. The reason why I say that is because, especially after we sat down with them at CES, and they gave us a demo, of their scenario of how you would use this, and also just reviewing the device. It's a 7-inch tablet. Display is great. You can actually do word processing well on it. It's fine. Even though it's still better. Hopefully, Microsoft releases a what do you call it again? A Metro version of Office. But the fact that as a business user, in that case scenario they had, is that you have a tablet that you can do everything you want to, and you can just dock it with a monitor, and you can actually have 2 monitors connected to this thing and still do work. It's a very portable PC concept more. At least that's what Lenovo was pushing, because that they're dealing with a business customer there with the ThinkPad 8. But for the casual customer, with the mix, it's still a full-fledged. It's still the idea of having Windows where you can do a lot of things on there, whether it's application-wise, you can take it with you on the road, different applications, legacy applications you use, and also watch your video content without any stress or issues on the way. So I think there is value at that form factor. It's just pushing it correctly. Lenovo has done a good job. Dell also did a good job with the Venue 8, because both sold very well over the holiday period. And again, the price point is very key. The ThinkPad 8 is $350, I think, or so.
Yeah,
roughly.
I want to say it's around $350.
Around $350. So when you sell it to someone that this is a full PC, don't even stress yourself about it. Your iPad cannot smell this on any level of anything. It doesn't matter how much your iPad costs, even if you keep racking up the price. This is a PC, and that's what Lenovo was saying. Like, yeah, you can get an iPad, but can your iPad do this? 2 monitor setup.
Yeah, 8 starts closer to around
400,
420, something.
420.
Like
okay, sorry. All right, but still, it's the same. Can your iPad do this? Can you take your iPad to work, and then take it home and just have fun with it at the same time? All you need is a keyboard and mouse, Bluetooth, and you're done. So that's some of the things that Microsoft probably has to do in terms of saying, hey, look, if you're looking for that really portable PC concept, here's your option right here, where you can now take your computer on the road, slide into that pocket like we know somebody can, into your suit, and then you're good to go. Like you can actually take it with you and still do work, or and then have fun with it, or do whatever you want to do. So like Juan said, is telling that message correctly, so people know, oh, okay, I can actually do these with this device.
Okay. Nah, they'll just give it to The Verge, and The Verge will tell us why we should get an iPad Mini instead.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
Because that's what Microsoft is going to do. I mean, it doesn't matter that we actually kind of like this stuff. They're gonna screw the pooch on the initial push for the marketing message, and you can also tell that they're not confident in it if their big reveal for it is a small press gathering of friends for tea and cookies. They're not gonna get the first steps out right. Everyone's gonna know it's Windows 8. Windows 8 sucks because someone said so 2 years ago, and that's what we're gonna be left with. And it'll take them 6 months to
on it
recover.
6 months later, but no one hears about that.
Oh yeah, right. they will recant 6 months.
Right.
Juan knows a lot about that.
Man, so friggin' useless.
Mr. Buffalo.
Seriously, I hear that. I don't want to. Let's not even go back to the Windows 8 thing.
All right, let's move away from Windows 8 here. And LG put out the display for which we're talking about display, so we can now clarify all that stuff. For the LG G3, it's a QHD display. Is it quad or is it?
It's capital QHD display.
Sorry, it's
that is
lowercase
I'm calling it Ultra HD, whether they like it or not.
It is a
K. It's got a K in it.
It's a capital QHD, not a lowercase QHD. Lowercase means crappy. Capital means massive.
Well, and this one I feel more comfortable saying that this is a 2K display because it actually has over 2,000 dots across, as opposed to calling UHD a 4K display where it's really only 3,800 dots across.
Hey, let's see what LG calls it at the end, man.
But it's math. You got to round it up. But no, what I'm really excited with the LG device, the G3, is the fact that this might actually be the flagship device that actually comes out and actually innovates. I'm like, wow, I'm actually looking forward to this. They're thinking about using what's it called, aluminum casing on it. They're thinking about a QHD display. They're thinking about using the new 805. They're thinking about, or is it an 804? They're thinking about, like,
805.
yeah, they're pushing it. They're basically pushing all the specs. I'm like, yes, this is how you make a flagship. This is how you make a flagship. Not what, and everybody else is now playing catch up. You know, they're coming out with a HTC One Prime. They're coming out with a Galaxy S5 Prime or Galaxy S5 Next or whatever they're calling it. Everyone else is making, you know, decisions based on a device that isn't even out yet, and that makes me happy.
It seems like we were going into this premium, you know, line of phones. I think that's where they're going to try and create another market in the United States or in emerging markets by going on an ultra premium level of things. And it seems like LG is going to be very ahead of the game on this. So it's like a lot of people were very surprised last year about the G2. The G2.
No, I mean, think about it. Sorry to just cut you off there. LG technically started this last year with the G Flex, even though the display was not 1080, but it was built to be this next thing. You know, it's flexible. It's got all this new tech in there that says. Remember, even the pricing to buy it unlocked was $1,000. It was like going back to the old days of Nokia phones, where you pay $1,000 for it. So I think they already started that line of let's push premium as much as we could, you know, rather than wait for, you know, doing the incremental catch-ups that HTC and Samsung has done so far.
It's every move they've made following the Optimus G Pro, where I think they were rightfully accused of just a little bit too much Samsung homage with the design of the OG Pro. Yeah. That I've been excited to see this company actually trying to build their own brand identity. You know, moving whether or not you like it, I'm not a huge fan of it, but moving the button arrangement to the back of the phone gave them a different visual appeal. And the G2 was surprisingly ahead of the curve. I mean, seeing as how they're, you know, the HTC One and the Galaxy S5 are sort of catching up to the G2 in many respects. Now I think their big play, especially if this is what the G3, if all of these rumors about the G3 come to pass, is moving the brand out of its recognition as being the cheaper solution. You know, like one of the biggest selling points for the G2 is that the price dropped on it really quickly. So you could get the Galaxy S4, or for $50 off on a 2-year contract, you could get the G2, and it's more powerful. Oh, that's an amazing bang for buck. They need to move out of bang for buck and deliver something where people go, wow, that is a premium device, and that's going to raise their credibility. So that's what I'm hoping. We'll have to see, because a lot of these specs in Android, we have this problem with specs where people care about specs and specs. And so if the device comes out too expensive, it's like the G Flex. Oh, that's too much money for that. What you get for what you get, it's too much. And you hear that just sort of parroted, you know, that repetition echo chamber, where someone thinks that they've got some sort of insightful comment on the industry, saying, well, that's too much. It's too much to pay for that. You don't get enough stuffs in it for that much monies.
Just why?
Because someone said it was too much.
And I got
a phone that
it doesn't have the 808. I need the 808 for that boom. That's why I need
that. Boom like an 808. Bonus points if you ever know what that song is.
Oh Lord! Anyone else who wants to chime in? I just saw some news that just popped up on Windows Phone Central. HTC's flagship Windows Phone 8.1 device will be called the HTC W8. Now, my mind says that W is an inverted M, which would just mean that it's just the M8.
Well, this is where I was because we're leaving LG here. This is what I've been kind of curious, because we heard all those rumors about, what was it, the Ace? Or was going to be a lower cost HTC in a plastic body as opposed to the aluminum body. And why would that be an Android phone? That is exactly what they did with the 8X.
Oh.
Well, no, with the 8X, where it was like you had sort of the slightly nicer build with the HTC One X, and then you had sort of a slightly lower quality build with the 8X. And so why not do the exact same thing? You just take all of the guts of the HTC One M8 and you just cram them into a plastic unibody shell and you sell it as a Windows phone. I thought that would make perfect sense.
Yeah, true, but it looks like they're doing the W8. Maybe you think about it, it would make sense if you remember Microsoft, first of all, just with Windows 8.1, it's much easier to actually port Android hardware like directly over. And then the second thing too is that they are probably accounting for the fact that they may not sell as much HTC One M8s, so you might as well just make it a W.
Or HTC is just doing what HTC does. Look, it's the HTC One M8. Look, it's an even bigger HTC One M8. Oh wow, look, it's a smaller HTC One M8. And
With a
look
fingerprint
now,
scanner.
And now it's a Windows HTC One M8. Come on. It's HTC doing what HTC always does. They take the same form factor, same build, and just migrate it across different OSs. It's fine. It'd probably be a decent phone anyway, but as long as they keep the second camera out of the whole mix. You know, it's HTC. Come on, well, like it's so sad that's what we've come to expect from HTC. They don't change the look and feel across different form factors or OSs. They just give you the same device with a different like software.
I don't mind that though, because from the M7 to M8, I thought it was great. It was pretty much the same thing from a hardware perspective.
But that's different, right? That's like from one flagship Android device to the next iteration of the flagship Android device.
Oh,
now,
and going from generation to generation, I kind of want the entire product lineup to have some sort of visual
consistency.
synergy.
Yeah, I used to hate every year with the Samsung Galaxy. I remember the headphone jack would be in a different place.
Yep.
Yeah. The button would be a little bit different. First, it was back button over here, and now it's on the right.
Why were people complaining about the
Headphone
S4
jack.
to the S5?
Headphone jack.
Wait a minute, I didn't catch that. What?
No. I said you guys are talking about how you love the synergy of keeping things at least somewhat similar in design from one generation to another.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's what Samsung just did with the S4 to the S5.
I wasn't one of the people complaining about that.
Yeah.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Okay.
No need to attack
So
you guys.
You gotta remember something. It's not an Apple product, so the Virgin and Gadget have to have something.
No, but it's I look back on the M7 days, and when HTC made their plays for the HTC One Mini, which wasn't very mini, and the HTC One Max, which was severely hamstrung. It wasn't a tech bet. You know, like they completely missed the point of what a phablet was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Phablet is supposed to be your audacious push. It's a huge screen. It should have huge specs. And they came in too late in the market to release a Qualcomm 600, a camera without optical image stabilization, and they had a half-baked implementation for their fingerprint sensor. So we didn't dislike the HTC One Max because it looked like a bigger HTC One M7. We disliked the HTC One Max because it was a gimped phone. If they had come out there and blown the doors off of why we use phablets with an aluminum unibody and the boom sound speakers and all this really crazy bleeding edge gear, we would have a very different talking point about the One Max.
Yeah, as much as I dislike the way Sony does business in America, when I saw the Z1 and the Z1 Compact, I said, yes, this, every time. If you're going to make a quote-unquote mini phone, don't miniaturize what you get in the experience and the specs. Right. Just make a really top-of-the-line phone in a smaller form factor, and that's what they did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I mean, the same thing went for the HTC One Mini, where I thought the One Mini actually solved some of the design issues, the aesthetic issues from the One M7, but you have to put up with a slower dual-core processor, you have to put up with no NFC, you have to put up with a crappy camera, the mediocre camera performance. You're like, that phone is punishing you for buying a less expensive version of the M7.
A couple of things in the comment here. Matt Copeland says the way Samsung.
Matt.
Okay, now so let's all try and do this collectively, right? Matt has had issues with his Note 2, as in he's gone through 4 of them, right?
Such a bummer, man.
And I've been trying to get Samsung support to basically help him fix his issue or just get him a new phone. So. I'm going to ask Matt to tweet out his issue, and we should all retweet it to Samsung Support and Samsung Mobile so that he at least gets them to finally...
I'll back that play.
Yeah, so we'll try to help you out, man. You know, as much as possible, we'll bug them till they eventually go, okay, fine, we have to...
Now, I saw a reply from Samsung Mobile US at some point.
Yeah, they did reply.
Tweet, but...
He said he got a message from someone, and then he hasn't heard back in like 3 days. Now it's 4 days or 5, I think. So that was so we'll try and keep bugging them, but just tweet it out and then tag all of us in there, and then we'll just
and we should let Samsung know they really might want to fix Matt's problem, because from what I've seen from the G3, the leaks, This is going to be a very interesting phone. It looks like they're moving to an aluminum build. The way the leak picture that came out yesterday, the way the light hits it, that looks metal. They have the same kind of buttons. It's going to be nice, big, practically zero bezel. Really nice shape.
With the new QHD.
It's going to have beautiful screen. It's going to have top of the line processor. This is going to be the checkbox phone for everybody. It's going to have. If this has a removable battery and a micro SD card, there'll be nothing for anybody complaining about except software. So Samsung might want to get on the job now.
No. You know what the funny thing is going to be? Yeah, they might complain about software, and then they'll come out with a Google edition or whatever. Just like open it up. So let me put it this way, like, yo, Samsung, like, you guys gotta look out for LG, man, and fix some problems.
I mean, I think I've said this to a few of you guys out there in the chat room before. Samsung left the door open, a crack in that door open with the S5. They did not close the door the way they could have, and I've never seen a company since Apple, when the smartphones really started to take off, where they could have just closed this door, shut it down, and no one else could have ever came or remotely smelt their way into this.
But
Samsung could have closed out Android. It's so hard, and they just completely.
They bug you. Every company does that. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's just part of life. People will do that. I think what Samsung should do, they should actually.
Google didn't do that with Google Search.
Give it time. They've had
time. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that anyone would take over, but you start seeing lapses where you go, huh? Kind of thing.
It becomes a play to basically retain shareholder value rather than innovate. And that seems to be what Samsung has done.
Well,
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to just step on that there, because it is. I think once you become the number one, you start listening to things like shareholder concerns over becoming too radicalized or pushing the boundaries too far. And I think the same thing happened to Apple, where they became victims of their own success. They need to make sure their products are identifiable. They don't want to alienate users that they already have, blah, 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 market synergy, blah, 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 paradigm. And that is always going to be an opportunity for another company to come in and shake things up. And LG is now the fastest growing Android manufacturer because they're taking risks. And if they become the next number one, I feel the same thing will probably happen to them, where they'll cool down.
It happens to everyone. I mean, look at Microsoft, Windows, XP. I mean, people have been bitching about Microsoft just cutting XP forever. There was an issue with a virus patch, and they patched it anyway, even though they stopped support. So it's that kind of thing where
that goes hand in hand with a lot of cheap people not wanting to update the damn thing.
I know.
That's a whole other mess.
But unfortunately, because of that kind of situation, other companies are going to look and say, like, well, man, our user base can be really conservative. Maybe we shouldn't push the boundaries too far. I mean, people are still out there using Windows XP.
If Windows ain't pushing a boundary, then I don't know what is. If they had already said, screw what you think.
But what did that get Microsoft? It got Microsoft 2 years of amazingly bad press. Windows 8 is the next Vista, and blah, 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 blah.
And they're still out there selling computers with Windows 8.
Oh, no. I mean, we know this. I'm just saying, like, if you're a shareholder and you're at a board meeting for Samsung, and Samsung comes out with this, like, radical, flexible phone made out of some hyper-exotic material and all this stuff, and it's going to be $100 more expensive than the last Galaxy, but it's got, like, 64 gigaflips, and it's got 20 megapixels and all this stuff. They're going to go, whoa, pump the brakes there, pump the brakes. We want the same Galaxy S4, but with
slightly better.
That way you can maximize profits and keep brand identity with paradigms and
synergy.
There needs to be that CEO that gets to the top and hears this stuff and does one of these right to the faces of all those. And I'm serious with that. One of those right to them.
It just won't happen. I mean, the thing about it is, for instance, of all the companies we talked about, the company who's primed to do that easiest is Apple. They have enough cash to support it. They are not even doing it, and
they don't have
Gordon Gekko as a CEO, man. They need Gordon Gekko as a CEO. Like, greed is good. Let's just do stuff to make more money. Let's just keep on making stuff.
Well, I don't even know if it's a Gordon Gekko. I think the age of the Steve Jobs CEO is
there's what's his name from
so we're only going to see that from an upstart. We're only going to see that from a new company. We're not going to see that from an established brand, because an established brand isn't going to want to take a risk. A maverick CEO like that.
Which is very, very true. Those who risk win. Especially in any should I say commercial venture, those who really make that big play are the ones who really rip all the benefits. And LG is making the big play.
The funny thing is, I just saw this little meme pop up on my Twitter, and it's kind of true, and it's a true play on anything you want to in life. But it's just funny the way he said it. It's one person. How did you get to the top? And he said, "Well, you have to risk it to get the biscuit."
Yep.
And seriously.
Yeah. And speaking of risking it to get the biscuit, Nintendo.
Yeah.
Segue. Not segue.
Thank you for that one, Warren. I just had to.
Okay, have I not talked about them enough?
Okay, everybody. Wait. This is one of those slow clap moments.
So Warren has done two. I think you did 2 videos on Nintendo, right?
I almost did another one.
guys, definitely go check it out, Warren's channel. But before you chime in, Warren, I'm gonna let everybody else because I know you've done a lot.
I'm gonna let you know. I guess something to drink. I'll be right back. I'm gonna talk about this. Oh, I'm right back.
He's gonna go get some scotch. So Nintendo released their financials, and again for 3rd year running, they're posting losses. Wii U has only sold 6.7 million. Meanwhile, the Xbox One and the PS4.
There's 6 million copies of the Wii U out there?
Yeah, I have one.
Only.
Yeah. Only.
Oh, you said
that's
only.
globally.
Like someone actually
that's globally. But no, the sad part is that Sony is at almost 7 million, and Microsoft is almost at 6.
Yeah.
And this is starting a full year behind. And then finally, on the financial point again, and Nintendo president came out and said they admitted that the Wii has been a huge failure. But what's surprising is that E3 is around the corner. Nintendo is not doing the E3 press conference. They've already told us what they want to do as creating consoles for emerging markets, and that's pretty much it.
Well, I think what was the other announcement that they made too, that they're going to be looking at an NFC action figure.
Yeah, kind of like Skylanders, right?
Yeah. And so again, I mean, they've got an incredible catalog of IP to license characters to do that too, but we didn't necessarily see Disney's Infinity strike out much better against Skylanders.
Yeah, exactly.
In the same market. I mean, I think it's an interesting idea. Does that save the company? No, not really.
No.
Yeah. I have 2 nephews that play Skylander, and I've played Skylander with them, and I'm just gonna put it out there, like, wow,
It's a fun game.
It's kept Xbox, like the regular Xbox 360, not the one, but the 360. It's kept it on the market. Those kids would not give up their Xbox 360. They have a tub this big. Let's see if I can get both my hands in here. Like this big with characters, like this big by this wide with characters in it. And you're pulling this stuff off. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. I've got a fully leveled up Trigger Happy. It's a fun game. You just burn 15 minutes, jump around, make 2 noises, and the main bad guy is voiced by the same guy who did Invader Zim, so that's good times.
It's a fun game. It is a fun game.
I mean, it is, but stuff like that I think helps Nintendo. And it's funny because Juan and I yesterday when we were talking about Apple and how Apple should expand the entertainment sector, we're like, you know what, just go out and buy Nintendo. You have money and they're dying right now. They're slowly.
That's actually a pretty good fit.
Exactly. I mean, the way the companies operate are the same. I love it.
No.
Warren's like,
leave Nintendo alone.
It's nowhere. You can't touch them. No, but I to me at this point, because I've been a Nintendo fan since I was a kid. I love their stuff, but they have disappointed me severely. The Wii I liked. I knew what it was. It had an identity and it knew its purpose. Nintendo then used the blue ocean strategy. Anyone who knows what blue ocean strategy is, it's about being disruptive and doing something to change the market that affects your position, which is why then Nintendo CEO said, hey, we want to be I remember his press conference said, we want to be the number 2 console. And everybody laughed. But then that made sense because he knew in the 3 console horse race, people will buy 2. If your second console is cheaper, then you become number 1 by default. And that's what happened with the Wii. Now, capitalizing on that is what they didn't do, and now we're stuck with a console where I have a massive screen there collecting dust, with called the Wii U, and it's not doing anything, and now the competitors are just leapfrog and become something bigger. Yeah. So, I mean, my question to you guys is, what the hell should they do?
We should preface this by saying, right? I'm going to preface whatever I say by saying this. First time I played Metal Gear Solid, a game I'm very passionate about, was on Nintendo. First time I played Street Fighter was on Nintendo. First time I played Mortal Kombat was on Nintendo. Mario on Nintendo. Any game that basically defined a lot of our childhoods, we played on Nintendo. So I think everyone would agree here that we have some kind of soft spot for the company, right?
Yeah.
But these guys have just taken all that goodwill and just chucked it out the window. They have no direction whatsoever. They have no idea.
They got one direction. It's called down.
I love it. Like Warren is going to, as we all talk, Warren's going to just give us some little bites.
Like,
zing. Some zingers. Like, as you're saying.
You are in a race with two high-end competitors. Two competitors that are saying, we're going to give you everything in the kitchen sink in our next, in our next generation console. Nintendo's answer to that, we're going to try to make a console for emerging markets. I'm sorry, emerging markets? These guys are caring a lot more about other things than freaking entertainment, okay?
Emerging markets are trying to keep the damn lights on, let alone playing the consoles. Like, I don't get it. What the hell are they going to plug the damn thing into?
So the way I read that was simply this. Nintendo's going to make a console that's very Asia-specific, that's very China-specific, and they're basically going to cannibalize their base market. And that is going to make them go further down, because break the goodwill for the country basically says, hey, we love you, you're you're like a national.
Whoa. sorry. You cut off there, and it looked like you were just ranting like a crazy black man.
It sounded like you said a bad word, and it's like the Google Health censored you in the middle of it.
Okay, for those of you who didn't catch it, all I'm saying is basically I read Nintendo's making a new console for the third world, or should I say for emerging markets, as Nintendo making a console that's going to cannibalize China, or cannibalize their base in China. And I'm basically equating that with basically BlackBerry scenario where, hey, we're a Canadian company. Canada is always going to support us, except for when they don't, and you now have to go bust. So that's it. They have no way to go but down, and I agree with Warren on that fact.
How about you, Juan?
I don't know. I mean, it's tricky because whenever a company starts sort of circling that downward spiral momentum, moves start to be made out of desperation. And with everything that they've talked about so far, it's tricky. I mean, you talk about like, okay, so we're going to start licensing our own IP, and we're going to set up NFC-based character games that can, jump into other games, and it's going to be really, really cool. So if your console has the capability to do that, why wasn't that more of a product strategy from the very beginning?
Mm-hmm. You actually had to have a strategy.
And that's the problem. That's the problem is we're watching them flail. And with making these types of reactionary moves, I feel that's where you start doing serious damage to the company. We're not hearing about a company doubling down on their hardware infrastructure and reaching out to get more games out there so that people will be excited about gaming and, tying product lines together. We're hearing about, well, we're going to try now more licensed IP branding, and we're hoping that kids will buy these little action figures, and then we'll sell cheap stuff to people that can't afford the stuff that we already have. It's not going to get people excited. You're not talking about games at that point.
Yeah.
You need to talk about games. I mean, we're finally getting Mario Kart 8 out there, and that should hopefully.
How long that game was in development for?
And that's what really bothers me the most.
6 years. It's been in development since 2008.
That's what bothers me the most, because if that Mario Kart game would have come out, I can pretty sure they would have got me to purchase a Wii, even a Wii U or something, because I would have been in the store, see that on screen, and instantly flash back to Mario Kart 64 and how much freaking fun I had. Taking my summers away on that system. I would have bought one before I left the store. I wouldn't have been able to rationalize it, but I would have said, I don't care.
I need it. I need it.
And yet Nintendo has lost that. I don't know what has happened to them, where they're not really pushing the boundaries to do anything new. Every system they come out with is behind the times. And we mentioned this in the chat yesterday. I was like saying, I think Nintendo was just afraid to miss a generation, and they just had to put out something instead of really just waiting and saying we need to create something that's going to make us stand out completely. And the answer to that is we're going to go to places where other people aren't going. Even though Ouya didn't work in those places, even though Fire TV is not going to work in those places, they think they're going to be different, and I just don't see that happening.
And I can safely say that you're right.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we just got an official announcement that Sam has agreed that Ouya is a bust, a complete bust.
Yes.
Do we have that video from CES 2012? Do we have that video?
The one where you guys are arguing?
Yeah.
No. Let me point this out. Ouya as a device is definitely. I think it's basically. I don't know how it's going to survive. But as a concept, the concept of Ouya, the reason people backed Ouya on Kickstarter, that is the future of gaming. Basically bringing it down to a level where the console itself doesn't cost that much, where you can get basically the same games you enjoy on your mobile, on on your TV, on your PC, where you can basically take a game from one console to the next, or should I say from one form factor to the next, and still have it being relevant. However, Ouya just couldn't do it. I don't think it's there yet because the technology for your mobile devices versus what Ouya had in there, it's not to the point where you can get high definition graphics. High definition graphics. So
the Fire TV has that. That's basically what the Fire TV is. What Ouya is the Fire TV actually done right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying what Fire TV is actually
done right. But I don't think Fire TV is going to work that well because from the little gaming I've done with it, you need another controller. Whereas the Ouya came with a controller that basically said this is a gaming device. I have a 10-button remote that I'm supposed to try to figure out how to game with.
See, going back to Nintendo, right? There's a couple of things that really get me miffed about the company and the strategy. The Wii was a desperate attempt to change things, and I was very fine with that approach.
I don't think the Wii was desperate. I think they had this one plan in place, and they executed that plan.
I wouldn't.
Desperate.
Sorry, Wii was desperate. Not necessarily desperate. Sorry, it was almost like a drawn out Hail Mary play. It was a drawn out Hail Mary play. Say, you know what, we are behind this guy, so let's do this XYZ, and let's throw it out there, and we're gonna try and execute it as best as possible. They did. Now this is where myself and Sam have had this discussion in the past. The Wii sold well for the first only 5 years. Like this was sold out for 3 years. At that point, at year 3, Nintendo should have announced a Wii HD, which basically is the Wii U, giving them that stopgap in between this time frame. So that now you can even release a console that matches your competitors. Maybe they were making so much money. They made cash hand over fist off the Wii. And I'm going, why did you use that money on R&D? Why didn't you use that money on buying studios to build all these franchises? Yeah. Like Andrew said, it's like if I saw Mario Kart yesterday, Lex was in the chat. It's like Smash Brothers a bust. If he sees the Smash Brothers, he's playing it. But those are the kind of things that people are waiting for, because Nintendo consoles are about the Nintendo games. It's if the Mario hits, I'm buying it. If Mario Kart hits, if the Zelda hits, Warren's going to be there. So it's that kind of thing. It's like everybody knows that if my favorite character is out there, so why don't you buy studios, spend the money you made from the Wii, buy studios, build a console, and then look for partners. There are things you cannot do. Nintendo cannot do entertainment well. We know that. Go find people who can, partner them, and then do that. But they missed that opportunity. Now the problem here is how do you fix that? It's not going to emerging markets like Warren said, where people don't care about that. Rather they will spend the money on a Moto E, than get because basically that device is going against the Moto E. Let's just be frank, and the Lumiere 630 and devices like that. So they would rather spend money on that. How do you fix that in the U.S. market, in Europe and places like that? Is that, other than acquisition by somebody or licensing, which Nintendo said they would never license their properties, because a friend of mine says, fine, just put Mario 1 on the Android and
Blasphemy.
and iTunes Store. Just that alone will probably sell. And again, you can see how Warren is reacting to that. I mean, but that's one strategy of licensing. I think the other opposition needs to go back and sit down and say, what do we have technology-wise, and what can we bring to the table? I mean, do you create a new console, or do you now refocus back on your handhelds where you've done very good, and say, let's innovate there and create something there that people will
be able to buy? They're a little bit, because the 3DS sales are no comparison to the DS sales at all, and they even undersold the projections of software sold with a 3DS this year. Probably the only reason they probably did anything decent out of that is because Legend of Zelda came out, and that was like the game of games to buy on there, and that was like I think that was actually last year game of the year across the board for everyone. Like no matter what console or no matter what game it was, that actually won game of the year. So I think that pushed a lot more 3DS sales. But let me go ahead and start off with this here. I've already kind of commented a little bit what I think they should really do, and really at the end of the day is look at what the Fire TV is doing and mimic the damn thing. Literally take a little box, call it the NES. You got to go back to NES days. That's funny, because the funny thing is that they're the original entertainment system. If you look at the name, they were the Nintendo Entertainment System, and that's what they provided. So go back and do what you provided. Give us a little console, and then allow us to add to it. So when you bought your Nintendo, you could buy the Power Glove, you could buy the Power Pad, it came with a gun, the light gun. You could buy all these. The Wii did it in a cheap plastic way. You got to attach it to something else to actually be able to do it. Everything was centered around having to attach it to that controller versus having something that's completely separate that plugs into the box or attaches to the actual box. That's the direction they should go. So I'm not saying you should do these specific things directly, but it's just like, look at the Fire TV. You buy it, you get that and the remote. But then if you want to game a little bit more, you spend a little bit more money, you get the controller. And the controller has the same functionality as a remote, but you have the option to turn it into, I just want to watch movies and stream, to, I want to get a little bit harder into gaming, so I'm going to get a controller, start playing some games.
Warren, you do have an idea there that I kind of like, in the sense that, taking that Fire TV approach, and I think if I'm Nintendo, I would do that, but I would become strictly that console that does
straight download.
Not just straight download, but also just, you're looking at games that are 2D side scrollers, things that reckon back and just push it back old school. So it's cheaper production cost. Yeah, cheaper production costs for you. Yeah. People now go that, hey, my Nintendo console it's $100 or $200, whatever the price may be, $150, and I can get all these games, and it's light, easy, and quick. Yeah. And it's a difference from the Xbox and say the PlayStation. Yeah. About full graphics and that kind of craziness.
That's actually really what my point is all about with it. It's like Nintendo, you have the Library of Congress of video games. There's nobody that has more IPs than you. Nobody. You have IPs to the level of movie studios, literally, and title characters. You think about this for a second. Microsoft has one title character. That is Master Chief. There is nobody else that you identify with Xbox other than Master Chief. Who? What is that?
Clippy from Office.
It seems like you're trying to build a video game console.
And the little dog too. Oh man. But literally, identifiable characters is a big part of these ecosystems. And really think about it. Microsoft's got one, and look how long they've been in the game to just get the one thing with Master Chief. Yeah. And then you go look at Sony. Really, outside of Crash Bandicoot, which that's already dead now.
Crash Bandicoot even theirs?
Maybe Sackboy for a little while was kind of their character, but they really have an identity issue with who really their front-facing characters. It's whatever hot game. So it's Nathan Drake at one point, and then it's this person next point.
I don't think Sony even owns those. They just paid to have Sony on the system.
Sony owns all those. Sony actually owns Nathan Drake. They do own Crash Bandicoot as well too. Anything that they kind of put as their front, if it's their front character, it's their character. It's who they own. Okay. But it's like they don't put, they really have an identity. I can't put a character next to Sony and say that's what I recognize as Sony. But Nintendo,
that was Sonic and Microsoft and Nintendo was
Mario. Yeah. But look at now, I can go to Nintendo and I can see Link, Mario, Princess Zelda, Princess Peach. I could see Luigi, Waluigi, Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, Metroid. You could go as little as Toon Link as well too. You could go. Let me see if I can go. The Ice Climbers, the anything in the entire Smash Brothers library for the most part, and you see them and you know it's a Nintendo character. You immediately identify with that. They need to get back to that. That's what that console needs to be about. It should be as fast as the Fire TV. Where you go in, you jump in, you play your games. It's almost like how they should be able to take advantage of technology now to where you have the feeling of how you used to play Nintendo back then. You popped it in the cartridge, the game loaded like that, and you started gaming. And that same aspect needs to happen with Nintendo. I think if you get back to those things, that's where people are going to start to like, oh, I bought my little NES console that has, I watch my Amazon, my Hulu, all my streaming video and stuff like that on it. But then I can just pick up and just play my my Mario Kart. I can just pick up and just play this game, and it's easy and it's simple. And that's what they need to go back to, because the whole appeal of actually the Wii was the fact that how simple it was compared to every other OS at the time on consoles. The Wii's interface actually forced Microsoft to drastically change the Xbox interface. Remember the whole Blade UI, which was garbage? I didn't even buy an Xbox until they changed that, because I couldn't stand Blade UI.
Before the Wii came out, how many of these consoles had shops? Like actual, game shops, like game stores in it? None of them really did. The Wii kind of revolutionized that whole idea of basically having a game shop where you could go and buy this old school type game. So the Wii did some really amazing stuff. But once again.
But the solution for them is not to sit there and IP all your titles away, because then you just throw yourself in a booth with all the other game developers and you're just going to get lost in the sauce with that. It's not the solution as someone that I think Lou Rod said to partner with Sony. That's blasphemy, and I hope you don't ever say that around a Nintendo fanboy. You will get slapped. You will get directly slapped.
I think they've sort of found the idea, but they don't know where to put it. We've kind of come to a consensus that having at least a lower price powered system that's kind of like the Fire TV that does more downloadable and quick connectivity for gaming is the way to go, which is something that you could build for an emerging market, but it's directed now. It looks like they're directing into the wrong place. Yeah. I think Nintendo also needs a management change.
I know.
Absolutely.
Fire everyone. I'm just gonna say it right now. Fire everyone. Fire. I was trying to literally fire everyone across the board. It's clear as day they don't know. They need a Nintendo Japan CEO that's got to run the whole show. They got to run the whole thing. But there's got to be somebody in America that focuses completely on America, and they can kind of do their own thing. You know what I'm saying? There's some things that Nintendo Japan does versus what Nintendo of America does, and Nintendo of America has to sort of be its own entity instead of being this one combined unit where the Eastern philosophy does not work with the Western philosophy at all when it comes to how things go. Because you clearly see that there's two different sides. Like, look at Xbox trying to work out in Japan. It just doesn't out there.
Well, I mean, it will be interesting to see how that turns out, especially since they have no big announcements for E3. But hopefully Nintendo, gets some sense and starts to make some changes.
I think the management shift is happening. You don't cancel. Not having. You're one of the big three at E3 that does a press conference. You're one of the big three, and you're not doing anything there. There's some shakeups already. There's some shakeups happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. But before we round up, just a quick one. I want to just get your quick thoughts on this. It's the last topic here, but we just want to kind of fire through. So a federal court, I think on Friday, said overturned the ruling and said Oracle can now ask for Google to pay for using its code in Android. So what do you think about that big ruling change? Because initially there was no damages on that initial ruling, but now it looks like Google might have to pony up some cash for using Oracle's code. Any thoughts? Quickly.
Wait, just to clarify, are they saying that they have to pay retroactively, or that they have to reach a licensing agreement with them now?
Well, the court. So basically, what it's saying is, to fully understand this, they're saying that now they can now go back and ask them to pay. There's no price that was set or anything, because the initial ruling was Google owes zero amount of money.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. So now they're saying now you can now ask them to pay. So it depends on what Oracle wants to do next step.
It's probably going to be an agreement between both
Yeah.
of them or something.
Because what I'm reading here, that's all about the APIs, and that's pretty dangerous if you have to pay to use APIs.
That's what I was going to say. Is like, regardless of what goes down between Google and Oracle, it sets a really dangerous precedent for anyone sort of developing software like this in the future.
Yeah, it's very worrying because I remember the whole point was them saying we own Java. If you code in Java, give us money, and if they're gonna set that precedent,
the internet should give them money.
Oh, yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
we're all gonna be.
The one thing that'll happen, which God I hope happens, if that goes down that road, you will see everyone yank Java out of their damn code. Which ain't that much. It's not like Java's completely it's not like it's heavily embedded like it used to be. There's a lot of things that HTML5 and many other things don't need Java directly for. But
the problem is somebody else taking it, like using that as an example and saying, "Oh, look, Your Honor, they established in this court that you can charge someone for using your program language." And if you say, "Oh, I invented I invented HTML," everyone on the internet gives me $1 or something. Like that kind of thing. Or even if you say, "I invented the italics tag," this very small, finite aspect of the internet.
Yeah.
Things like that can make you very nervous about
but what they're really talking about here is the whole what frameworks that people use to actually create something on top of something you base something on. HTML and things like that that's not really in this game. That's a language you're using to make something, but this is essentially you're making an app, or you're making it's very similar to when someone makes an app that works with Facebook, or someone that makes an app that works with Google Plus. You're using the APIs to be able to use something you're developing, communicate with some other system. It's just like a bridge between the two, essentially. What you're doing.
It might not be that bad, because basically the initial ruling was that Google infringed Oracle's copyrights, not its patents, which is key. Which is why they said they shouldn't pay. So if they're still saying they can now pay on the copyrights, it might be something on a smaller scale, not the patents. So I don't know. The full details are not out there. But if it's going according to the initial ruling, where it says you just infringe on the copyrights, not the patents, then the judge is probably saying they should pay on the copyrights infringe on there. So that might be fine, not the patents itself.
All right, guys.
So anyway, let's go ahead and round up. I know we've been on for a little bit here. Thank you very much for joining the show, guys. Just a quick note I just saw from CNET. CNET is saying that the Microsoft might be releasing a new Surface Pro, not a Mini. Right, and as well as a Surface Mini at this event.
Yeah, so that means the Surface is going kaput, and it's a good idea.
Yeah, so that might be the case here. But anyway, thank you very much, guys, for joining the show. I appreciate everyone's comments. And also, Matt, please, Matt just posted that basically they've been in touch with him, but just keep us posted and tweet us with any updates on your Galaxy Note 2, so we can at least chime on with Samsung on that. But guys, don't forget to check out everyone's channel. I'm going to start off with Mr. Warren Bowman from Booredatwork.com. Check him out with his long-form videos, and check out those 2 Nintendo videos he has, so you can go into more detail about what Nintendo needs to do. Subscribe to his channel on YouTube. It's bw1.com. Also, that's his Twitter handle, and also check him out on other social networks. Next up is Mr. Juan Bagnell from Some Gadget Guy. You can check him out. He's got some nice videos. I actually just watched his video on how to get Google Voice working on Windows Phone, and it's a bummer.
It's really a bummer.
But definitely check it out. Some good stuff, some good information. He's got some great videos like that, also some good audio videos. So check out him at Some Gadget Guy on YouTube. That is his handle. Also Some Gadget Guy on Twitter, and also other social media outlets. And Mr. Andrew Cam from Mobile Burn. He is the head chief at Mobile Burn, the Android expert. Anything you need to know on Android, don't ask me, ask him. Seriously. It's a much better person to ask. Check him out on Mobile Burn on YouTube. Subscribe to them on Mobile Burn. And also, if you want to follow Andrew on Twitter, that is his handle, Andrew Cam. Big Arsenal fan. That's right. So hopefully at least they win FA Cup. We'll see how that goes. But check Andrew out there, and also Mr. Black Iron _ man, Sam. He didn't put his Twitter handle there, but it's Black Iron _ man. He is one of our writers on Board at Work. He is the game extraordinaire. We'll be doing a lot of gaming videos. He just heard that now, so I'm actually telling him. And and check out his videos on Board at Work, and also myself, Thunder E at Board at Work. That is our Twitter handle as well as our YouTube channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube. It's Board at Work. So this is Thunder E saying thank you very much, guys, and always enjoy your entertainment.
Bam.